Good evening and welcome to the Town of Osmond Planning Board meeting for April 19th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is Terra Rustica.
Good evening. For the record, Corey Salomon from Zarin and Steinmetz here today on behalf of Terra Rustica Restaurant. Here with me this evening are the owner of the restaurant, Abel Magana, as well as Lou Macy, project architect. So I know it's been a while since we were before here. I think last September was the last time we were here. So I'm just going to give you a little background to bring everyone up to speed. So again, the property is at 550 North State Road. The property is approximately 1.1 acres in the GB zoning district. Currently improved with a 4,300 square foot building and 1,000 square foot desk. And the site contains 55 parking spaces. You'll recall we initially appeared before you. I guess in 2021, the deck was 380 square feet. We expanded it by 520 to get to the 1,000 square feet. So we're here before you tonight seeking amended site plan approval for the deck. We want to enclose it with tempered insulated glass. And so the last time we were before you guys had some questions with respect to the adequacy of the parking. So to address that, we secured a lease with our neighbors for 20 parking spaces. So now there will be a total of 75 spaces available for the restaurant, which is you can exceed the requirements of the code. And then I'll turn it over to Lou to talk about, you guys had a question about how the glass panes were open and close and how we would heat and cool the area. And then just to reiterate, we got it approved for 30 seats. That's what it is now. And that's what it's going to remain. So we're not adding any additional space or anything.
But there's 80 seats now
80 seats where?
on the patio.
No.
It is not 86 on the plan. Impossible.
How many seats are there?
It's 36. It's, if you can see more chair now, we put it plastic and we're putting all the equipment inside and I got damaged by the weather. But it's 36 seats. Maybe like 30, maybe like 50 if we do in the one outside when it was before the old patio, where we give it a drop right now to see. They've been using this patio for a long time ago, and now I don't use it because they let me use it last year. So it's 36 seats inside.
No.
Yeah.
There's more than 36.
So what we're looking to do is enclose the existing covered porch with windows. The bottom part's going to be fixed, so no one can fall through, and then the upper part, all of them are going to be sliding windows, so they're going to slide over. And then what we're doing for heating and cooling is providing a AC unit and heating and cooling unit that's going to be attached to the side of the building, outside of on the side of the building that you can't see it, and then ductwork is going to be brought in to provide heating and cooling. And that's about it.
So the space, how many seats in total for the restaurant?
How many seats inside? It's 36 seats inside.
No, total.
The total on the restaurant inside is 100.
Okay.
Inside the restaurant is 100 with the bar.
So,
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Don. You have questions? But
So I'm definitely concerned about the parking at 557 North State Road. Where exactly will the parking be? Will it be on the back of the property, the front of the property?
From the, it's around the building on the property.
Okay, so not in the back.
No,
Okay, great.
if it's overflow, they have a huge parking lot there that they allow me to use.
Okay, but we have all residents behind there.
There's not residents in there. The building where I park. Oh, you talk about the restaurant or
The parking, the 557.
the 557 is not residential area there. It's a
Yes, abuts a residential area, and the two families that are behind that, directly behind that 557 North State Road, have small children, so we're definitely concerned. I live behind that.
But
No,
no, the point
no.
is,
You're gonna park.
you're gonna park in the front and on the side, you're not.
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
parking there.
No,
Okay, so we can have that in writing?
absolutely.
Okay, great.
But I don't understand, what you talking about, the seven, we are 750. The underside got the parking lot, it's not from there.
557.
Behind 557, the butts a residential district, so 557 is not residential.
No.
But behind it.
It's far away, you cannot park it, it's like.
Yeah, but the point is, we're parking in the front of the site, that's.
Okay,
that's all.
great. So as long as we can get that in writing.
So, where are we with this in terms of procedure?
So in terms of procedure, this application, if the board is interested, we can notice it for a public hearing. Even though it was in front of this board for a public hearing, at this point in time, because it wasn't adjourned to a date certain, it needs to be just renoticed, so we can do that and have that ready for next planning board meeting. And if the board doesn't have any other questions and stuff on this application and doesn't need any additional information from the applicant, I can also have a draft resolution for your consideration at the next meeting.
Okay, and then we would have to, sit as the ARB and have them bring in samples of what we're going.
So I will, well, if you want actual physical samples,
Or pictures,
they did provide as part of their
Right.
packet, and I think Lou has.
yeah,
I do have a sample. Here's,
okay,
this is the frame that's gonna go around, the railing that's there now. It's gonna look very similar to that.
and then
Yep.
those are, okay.
Yep.
And what part would open and what part,
So this needs to be fixed so nobody falls through.
right,
These parts will slide,
okay,
like sliding windows.
okay, so basically every other one will be able to open.
Every one will open,
Oh.
either direction. So
Okay,
this could
gotcha.
slide this way and then this side will be open, or this could slide that way and that side will be open,
Okay,
but they're all out.
anybody else have any questions?
So I do have one question with the heat pump. They're pretty quiet, right? These things, because it sounds like you're probably gonna put it, there is a neighbor, it's gonna be on the side where that neighbor is very close.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
This heat pump. the heat
Yes.
pump-
Yeah, the heat pump's super quiet.
Okay,
It's a
That's-
two phase, so it ramps up, but when it's not in use, it's gonna be very low.
okay, great, thanks.
Okay,
Yeah, the final location of the heat pump is actually governed by the building department.
Right.
They're the ones gonna review these as far as setback.
any other questions? All right, so,
I just had a
yes,
question on the easement agreement on the adjoining property. How does that relate to their parking count and their operation?
Is that right? Yeah, the partners use it when they're not used, they're not used.
And they don't use in a daytime to the public when it's going to be available day and night.
And it's a easement agreement?
No.
The lease.
Yeah.
The lease is 557 North State Road. It's the powered up garage.
That's correct.
mhm,
So people, I guess there's sidewalk there. People can walk across. It looks like from.
Okay. From Terra Rustica to.
And that's only for over.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah, of course.
it's just over.
Yeah, people are gonna want to park closer unless there's no spots.
Correct.
all right, so, can we set this for the date certain for the
May 17th.
May 17th? It is. We set that for a public hearing and Valerie, we'll have a motion to have Valerie preparing the draft resolution for us.
Make a motion that Valerie prepare a draft resolution for Terra Rustica for the porch decking portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Donna, how do you vote?
Yes,
Jim,
Yes.
Manny,
Yes.
and Jason.
Yes.
I vote yes as well. All right, we'll see you back here on the 17th.
Great, thank you very much for your time, appreciate it, have a great evening.
Have a good night.
Oh, wait, you're right. I did forget to introduce everybody, okay? All right, I guess as we proceed, I forgot to have everybody introduce themselves, so, we'll start with Kathy. You wanna-
Kathy Galantis, planning board attorney. Valerie Nostra, planning board consultant.
Nancy Arcia, consulting engineer, of the planning board.
Sandy and Ellie, secretary, planning board.
Donna Farah, planning board member.
Jim Messines, planning board member.
Manny Enriquez, planning board member, Jason Mentor, planning board member.
Carolyn
I'm gonna take
Stevens,
this off.
chair. For the planning board. Okay.
Gucci is up next, right?
Mark Pucci.
Aye.
Sorry. Subdivision.
Another cookie.
Sure.
Skip there.
It's a request. Yeah, 3 items outstanding, as I understand it.
I mean,
Did you send me
we submitted them,
Yeah,
Well-
and on that
Okay.
notice.
So,
we just, at this point, I believe it's just the bond, we have to know who to make the bond out to.
okay,
Just be a copy of the bottom.
Yeah,
This
you
one?
it for form. Oh, I never got a copy.
No, this is.
Okay, the right way.
They told me that would, that's. There's no way we can just,
Just send me a copy of a blank bond, and we do it all the time, if you look at
Yeah.
performance
he
bond.
told me it's a little difficult to get a copy and then ask for it afterwards, but I'll try.
I mean, they can write all over it, like sample or something, if they're not gonna issue it. So, I mean, and you can see the wording that it's sufficient to protect the town.
Okay,
there were 2 other items.
Yeah,
Kathy?
so the other item is, I asked for the stormwater maintenance agreement in words. You
in
should-
words.
You said on the 12th, but you did. So it's just been a little busy and we will get to it as soon.
Okay.
And the last thing, you sent copies of the easement agreements, the private easement agreements, but they weren't, you didn't include the recorded page. Are those easements agreements all recorded? Proof of recording?
no, we can't report it. From what I understand, we need the plat signed. Then we can record them. That's what Jerry Canavan is telling me. We can't do anything. We can't record them until we have the approval from the board. Once this plat is signed, he said, then we can record them.
As the way the resolution reads is that they have to be recorded, or I believe, prior to signing the plat, so.
He's telling me complete opposite. I mean, we've had these ready for over, month to month.
Can you?
The question is, how did they craft the descriptions?
With,
If they described it as an easement as shown on the plat, recorded as map number something, then you can't do it, but if he's got to meet some balance description,
they described it with the,
meet some balance.
no, with.
Referencing the plat.
Referencing the plat,
Okay,
that
so
hasn't
that's the
been
law.
filed, so.
So do we need to take any resolution?
And so the resolution, I guess we could change that it's subject to, prior to issuance of a building permit or prior to issuance of, there has to be filed or something to that effect.
I mean, if I would have filed it a month ago, if I knew that, but
No, I understand, but.
so if you, I'll call him
But I have
tomorrow
to-
and I'll have him file the way it is, reasons resolution. He said it'll take a day or two and then we can sign the plat after
But the
that.
way that they're signed, it references, has blanks to fill in. For the, you're right, it has blanks to fill in for the file plat number, which we don't have a file plat number, so it's like chicken and the egg here, so if that's the way that they're drafted, and without reference to a meets and bounds description, we can't do it, it can't be reported prior to the filing of the plat, so.
We can change them, we can change them.
We could change the rest, maybe just be easier at this
To
point,
change the
since they're already
resolution.
signed, to
Yeah.
change the resolution and just amend the resolution in that regard and say it doesn't have to be done prior to the signing of the plat, but prior to the issuance of any building permit. And then you could go ahead and file what you've already prepared and signed and executed.
If it's faster, maybe I'm sure it's gonna take a while to change the resolution, right?
No, we can do.
Do it by
Motion right
17.
We can do a motion now.
Yeah,
We have a motion to amend the resolutions.
Again, I just don't think, I just don't trust me. Why? The past.
I bought that specifically for here and
Yeah.
I'm not getting good reception. This is cellular, so that's not working either. We really need Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sure.
Not me to know.
I mean, because it's gonna take just as long for you to go ahead and get meets and bounds descriptions, rather than referencing the file file, it's gonna take even longer because you need surveying to do that, so. I think
Right,
it's
so let's, then we'll
just-
amend the resolution.
Okay.
We have a motion to amend the resolution in accordance with the language.
That there was gonna be easements must be filed before the building permit is issued.
Or any building permits.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Donna, how do you
Yes.
vote? Jim?
Yes.
Nan?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So we will.
Now we don't.
do that.
So this, the amended resolution is like this week. I'll have it, sorry.
Oh, we
Yeah.
just did it.
We did.
Well, I mean,
We did it.
formally, yes.
She just changed, she'll check the
Okay,
language.
okay.
We'll get that to you.
Okay,
And
and then
then
And then, so you need to get
the draft of the bond.
the bond. And I will review what you gave me on the phone, the Word version of the storm reviews agreement and redline and get it back to your attorney or you. Who am I dealing with?
Either or, it's,
Okay.
you know,
Bob Davis?
no, Jerry Canavan. I'm sorry, well,
No, no, don't worry about it.
yes, Jerry Canavan, yes,
Very kind of him.
Yeah.
You could just send me the attorney's.
okay.
Contact.
And then Ralph, I mean, actually Ralph is the one, Ralph prepared it, right? Ralph is the one who did the stormwater. So, Ralph has one.
I'll just send it to Sandy and she'll send it out to you.
Is that me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, it sounds like
So-
culprit.
That was so really open. We can't have to sign until, we can't have to sign that.
No.
No.
Also here.
Yeah, so that's what we.
There is another thing that the board needs to.
Right. Um. So, can I have a motion? Grant an extension for 90 days.
Sorry.
Can I have a second?
Second.
You just closed it.
Your computer.
There you go.
Figure out how to do that.
Okay.
It's muted, it's like,
Okay.
push it.
So, so Jim seconded the motion.
What is the motion?
The extension.
Extension of the resolution,
Oh, absolutely.
in which
Yes.
complete.
Yeah.
Okay. Donna, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Danny,
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
No, I
Sorry,
vote
you
yes.
specified 90 days.
Yes.
That's enough time.
About 3 days and we'll get all this taken care of in 3 days.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thanks.
you. The next item is River Knoll supplemental final environmental impact statement comments review. Before we get started, let me just say that one of the things that you and whoever else is working on this need to understand is this document becomes the planning board stuff. Okay? And we need it to be in a form that we find acceptable and that contains language that is appropriate, is an appropriate response. And that also has to be completely acceptable to both Kathy and Valerie. Because ultimately, they are also town attorney and town planner, and not just they consult with the town board as well as us. So this document is a document we will have to forward to the town, and it becomes a public document. And we need it in a form that's acceptable to us, and right now it's not. And part of that is because of that some answers are incomplete, and part of it is because some of the answers have been a little
Little what?
split. And so you just really needed to be a professional. And with that in mind, we are happy to clarify any issues.
I'm not on. All right, Sandy's got to let me in again.
Unmute you.
Yeah, muted and installed as well.
I think he needs to be unmuted. I think he needs to be able to, share his screen. Share his screen.
Screen.
Okay,
Is that correct?
still not.
No.
No.
It comes up on the bottom.
It should come up,
see if
share
it's
screen,
screen
shield the bottom,
Ability,
screen share.
multiple, yeah, that one.
Are you trying to
I
share?
think you gotta do it on your end. right?
Yeah, I mean,
You also have to go in and on,
whoever's the host. Should get.
I mean, I can see
you have a button, you should have a button at the bottom that says share.
your
screen.
internet's connected.
It's exactly like that one, where it says share screen,
Screen,
it should be
you
on the
should
bottom of
also be
yours.
Bottom of yours,
Here we go.
press that.
There we go. Is that it?
Should have been. There we go.
Yes?
Yep.
There should be.
Should be, if we choose the document to share.
This document there. Connecting. Trying to connect.
What were you saying?
Does, here we go.
No,
You see me up there? Yes.
see you, but we don't see your.
Now I'm gonna share the screen, I think.
Well, when you click share, it's gonna ask you for the document to share, so you have to click on that.
Oh. Mhm. Sandy, we're trying to pull up my. There we go. All right.
There you go.
Fine. So, I want to respond to what you just said.
Okay,
We've been at this 8.5 years when we were done. And we have top professionals who've responded to whether it's JMC, whether it's for architects, whatever. All of whom have read through this document numerous times and responded to you in ways that they feel is appropriate. Those firms and those people have written many other EISs, as have I. So when we answer these things, we feel we have answered it thoroughly. And that's why I've asked for this meeting tonight, is because we felt we had answered everything thoroughly. But we're here tonight to try to do this one last time.
Yeah, you, in the screen, you're mentioning 95 units, but
Did,
The document is
maybe,
96.
okay, yeah, it is 96, that just didn't get changed. I want to go to the top of it, we're sort of, so what I thought we would do, everybody has my comment responses from that I sent in a week or so ago. We really don't need to look at the screen. We only need to look at the screen for like 2 items. one of the items is you've asked for the composition and so you don't really need to look at the screen right now. I'm gonna actually shut it down for now. For the mix of units. And when we get to that, I'll show you the mix of units, we'll talk about it a little bit. And also the price points for those units, most particularly the affordable units, where we think those are going to come out. And those are based on the HUD requirements that describe 2-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units. We're kind of leaping ahead. So what I'd like to do, if we could, is go through what I had sent to you on the 10th of this month. Okay,
Glenn, can I just make a comment?
sure.
In terms of procedure, the next step is to refine. So it's not just sufficient to respond to a comment
Yeah,
letter.
we know that.
So you have to actually take the comment and revise your document and you submit it to the board.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Everything's addressed in the March 10th.
That's what we, so the March 10th,
No,
the March 10th is our hope that we will have narrowed in on,
I meant your March.
yes.
yeah, no, I think, right, so my March
Yeah.
10th, he has, right now, he has, in the document that you have with the blue, are his, I think, your suggested approach or your thoughts on your approach, or are they questions? Or,
Well, that's what I thought we'd walk through.
okay,
Okay,
You said additional questions, and as we understand
they
it,
weren't additional questions, they were just comments on whether you responded to the comments that were submitted by the public.
you wanted additional clarification on a number of things. We understand your letter, Valerie, to be generally speaking, a compilation of other memoranda that have been submitted over the last half year or so.
No, so you had the FEIS document that you created. We went through that and how you responded and then had comments on the responses in that
I know that.
FEIS. Okay,
There have been a number of other, been the EAC documents, right?
but they were part of the public submission.
Right. And your letter, this only point I'm trying to make, your letter also encompasses many of the EAC companies, correct?
Yes, any comment that was in the FEIS that we thought needed to have either an expansion or wasn't addressed, adequately, that's what we brought in.
Correct. Okay, so we're on the same page. The
Okay.
only letters would be the Kimley Horn letter on that John Canning prepared
Yeah.
regarding traffic.
That's for the traffic.
And I can answer that one really quickly. And that really one question he had was bus stops. And in speaking with John,
Where is this on this letter?
It's not, it's a Kimberly
It's
Horn.
Kimberly
They
Horn.
submitted comments last month.
Oh,
That
okay,
he
that's
needs
not
to,
this.
right, and it was
Okay,
for
okay.
the traffic responses in the
Right.
FEIS and the traffic study in the FEIS.
and so I spoke with Ray Sanchez and he asked me to speak to Jim Minahan, who's the Director of Transportation. And there are two bus stop possible locations. One's at the corner of Pershing and Crotondale Road, where there currently is a stop. And the second one is on Narragansett, where right behind the playing field, the park,
There's only two bus stops in the study area that exist.
within short proximity of our site. Those are the two.
What's the Valerie, how big is this letter, they say bus stops in the study area. How large is the study area? It's a quarter mile, half mile.
Usually it's,
It's a quarter mile.
yeah, quarter
I
mile.
can answer that part. So if you have pre-K through fourth grade, the bus stop has to be within a half mile. If you're fifth grade through, I think it's eighth grade, be a mile, then.
What about distance from the school?
That's business.
I'm talking about the study area for the project site, and that's the area which I believe the Emily Horn letter refers to.
Mhm.
Are you,
I'm just answering the question that ended up, the only question we hadn't answered was where a bus stop might occur.
I believe their comment was asking information on the existing school bus stops in the study area and the morning and afternoon pickup and drop off times at each of those locations. Because I believe the traffic engineer's comment was knowing that will help inform patterns for trucks leaving and coming to the site. So is the answer that there's only 2 bus stops in the
There's only
study area?
2 that are the
exists.
closest two. I don't know if there are any beyond that.
Okay, well, then I don't know that that responds to the comment from the traffic engineer. Because I believe their ask was to provide information on school bus stop locations in the study area, as well as the morning and afternoon pickup and drop off times at each of those locations. And I think last time you said you had communications with the superintendent and you would try to get that information.
As I just said, I spoke to him. Just said, I spoke to him, and he put me in touch with this guy, Jim Minigan.
Who identified 2 bus stops for the district in the study area.
Yes,
Okay, so if you do you have that in writing from him, so then we can just add that to the record.
if he wants to put it in writing, sure.
I don't know the area that well. I'd be surprised if there's only 2 bus stops, but if that person who's part of the school district says that that's the case, that's the case. Or you,
But I'm trying to understand why, if there's one that's literally out the back door of the project, why would we care if there are others?
so I think you're conflating things. I think you're focusing on if a bus stop needs to be placed for potential children in development, though there shouldn't be any.
Yeah.
This is asking about bus stops
Existing.
for children who live in the
I
neighborhood.
understand what you're saying, but why do we care if it's, I can do that. Why do we care if there's a bus stop a mile away?
I'm just gonna say this out loud. I don't have to tell you why we care. That's not the threshold. The threshold is an expert in transportation and traffic had a comment on the SFEIS. Last time we discussed that comment, he was on the Zoom. He asked that information be provided about the bus stops in the study area. If that information's been provided, we can move past that comment. If the information has not been provided, it has to be provided to respond to that comment. Until all the comments are appropriately and sufficiently responded to, this doesn't advance. Is that more or less correct, Valerie?
It is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want everyone to be on the same page.
But part of what the traffic consultant was getting at was not just whether a school bus stop would be needed for the project. What he's talking about is during construction. And that's why he talked about pickup and drop off. Are you going to be able to make adjustments so that, your construction vehicles aren't going through at pickup and drop off? That's really what he's talking about. And
Well, you can't know what
And
adjustments
when
need to
that's
be
what
made
he's
until you
saying.
know where the bus stops. are.
right, well, you can't know what adjustments, but also it's also possible that those are going to change as you get closer to your construction day. We get that. But right now, you just need to know the bus stops, I guess, really.
So should we have that in writing from this person, this traffic?
Yeah,
person?
so what typically happens is the traffic consultant will send it back, provided it back to Glenn. Glenn would then have, will then take that information and provide a written response. And most likely it corresponds with directly either with the traffic study or with comments on the FEIS, and those would get incorporated into the next round of the FEIS or the next traffic study. And so the traffic engineer would automatically understand what it is that they're looking for and why they're looking for that. Would be able to accommodate that, write it, and then make it, analyze it as part of their response.
And I think there's a practical aspect to this. And the practical aspect will be that until we really get going on the site, the delivery of materials I'm getting attacked by moths. The delivery of materials and the coming and going of construction people will vacillate and evolve. And so
You're usually
we're all gonna be
right.
smart, we're all gonna be smart enough to know that we're creating a traffic jam at peak bus hours. that
This is a
will
seeker
work
review.
around it.
These are potential impacts of the development that have to be studied and analyzed and reviewed at this stage. Can't just defer it.
Right, you can usually
Certain
provide
things
an
can be
estimate.
deferred and they get deferred. This is something that doesn't get deferred.
I mean, you can provide an estimate on that. Usually.
Anyway, a lot of the question one. Can you just,
Yeah, like, just provide it.
yeah, and you have the answer.
I was surprised. There's only 2 stops in a quarter mile, but I guess it's not a residential neighborhood.
Okay, it's not at this point.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay.
So do you want, shall I just walk down all of these? Okay. So general comments, first one, we will respond to a problem. So
Right there, that shows a misunderstanding of the process because that's not what's being said here is that this comment in the FEIS is insufficient.
Right, so there were additional
just
comments,
comments.
right, so those need to be incorporated into
We
the
did that.
FEIS. Okay, well, you just said it
You
was a
said
separate cover, which makes it
some other
now-
document.
okay, well, that's your. Okay, taking it away. Yes.
Okay, well,
Sorry, we're
we have no other way to take it.
We will definitely do that.
Okay.
Okay,
We understand, and of those letters, 3 are duplicates,
Yes, and then,
yes.
okay?
Yeah.
Zoning table, can you just give us a little more
so I was just,
clarity? on
I
each
think
of
we
the
were
three
just, well, because there was this discrepancy in the SFEIF, either 95 or 96 units. We were suggesting, why don't you just provide the zoning table specifically outlining what it is, the number of units you're proposing, types of units, and then also just in general that the needed setbacks, because your site plans don't have any, the zoning table. There's no zoning table, so we were just suggesting it would be simple just to provide the zoning.
Okay, and include setbacks in it?
Well, that's what typically is zoning table.
So the seeker regulations, including all require specifically the reference or incorporations.
Yeah.
SPEIS.
So in that section, so you need to state in the FEIS that the SFDIF incorporates the SDEIS. And so it's required of us.
Make sure Bob knows that. Bob is on vacation. Pete who wrote it, and Wayne is also on vacation in Amsterdam, so from here on, I'm the one. Okay, so then we go down to the second page. And I responded to 10 affordable units, and I've also given you that table.
Okay.
So, right, so so the response to this, the issue is a couple of things. First of all, you're referring to HUD regulations, but there is a town of Austining regulation. So what needs to be part of this response is how those affordable units will meet the town of Austining code. Also, you mentioned here, like your first sentence, it needs to be specifically, you say you're not able, that they've been fully designed, but then you're saying that their differences won't be. What basically they're looking for is, if you look at the town of, what I'm looking for is that the town of Austining has certain regulations. They do allow certain design flexibility, and you just need to respond as to whether you're going to incorporate any of those, or whether they're going to be indistinguishable, or your intent is to have them indistinguishable. But you start off with, you can't design them yet, but then you refer to them potentially being indistinguishable. So you just need to respond yes or no, what you're planning to do, and then also how they meet the town of Austining, or will meet the town of Austining.
Okay, so when I say indistinguishable on the exterior, they will be built with the same material, same metal
Yes,
frame windows. And in the interior, I say there'll be more of a mid-price appliance packages and such as that. Beyond that, is there something additional that you need to understand? I don't know.
And compliance with the town code.
Right,
Right,
town
I'm saying-
code.
But it's the town of Austin code, okay. Town of Austin code.
But please respond
But in
to,
your question, no,
The document.
he didn't even bring it up. But your question does not talk about the town of Austin code, it talks about HUD guidelines.
no, that's how you responded to them.
Right.
That in the italics is your quoting from the FBI. You have the ten.
Wow, that's fine. Okay,
Okay.
you're right. We will provide the next one. I did provide that. We want to go through that. Do you have questions on it? Did you get that was circulated to everybody?
Yes. Makes sense. Everybody saw the tape, the size table and the price thing. Okay,
Again, that would have to be something that is included.
right, and then you incorporate it as opposed to
Got it.
provide it as a separate cover.
Are you all looking at it or are you want to move on?
We can move on.
Move on? Okay.
What we're looking at. Len sent a table showing the size of the various units and their prices, price points. You didn't see that? A couple days ago.
I can pull it up on the screen
Okay.
if I can
I don't.
cross my fingers.
Okay,
You didn't get it either. Okay,
so,
only some people got it.
okay.
Can you
Okay.
see that?
It's not it.
It's on my
It's
screen.
separate.
Did you go?
I got it.
So Jason
Is it
didn't,
coming up?
I thought it was addressed to everybody.
no.
You got the table, right?
I saw the email, but I just,
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
All right, so
It
then,
didn't come to everyone.
It's not moving. I don't know. Maybe it's this. Yeah.
Maybe we could just set it.
Sorry, guys, this is the end. Um, We're screen sharing. It's not moving. I'm sorry. I can reload it. Or we can just talk about it. You've got it in front of you, no?
No,
no. I did not print it from my computer.
Let me try to reload this. Sure.
I can be.
I'm not able to pull it up. I'm sorry, guys. I just.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I circulated them. I can paraphrase it if you guys are.
Or you could send it to me and I'll send it to everybody.
Right,
Right now,
Well,
I circulated it the other day. Want me to circulate it now?
or just
No.
send it
No,
to me
sir.
and then tomorrow. I'll send it to everybody. So.
you're right about needing Wi-Fi.
We don't need to discuss this now, right? We just need to look at it. So
Yeah.
let's not go through it.
Okay, so I'm on to my comment 3, which is about planting, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's our answer. Right now. We provided a landscape plan, this concept landscape plan that showed the buffering on all different sides of the property.
Right, so what we responded to is that, this was clearly, there were a number of comments on landscaping. And so we suggested that it should include additional information, the number of trees that will be preserved, the general location on the site plan, and then also response that would include an example of plant species that are being considered. So that's what probably needs to be responded to, and I think your position has been that you're not planning to do anything until you deal with the actual landscaping plan during the site plan review process. We discussed this at the last meeting, that the board said they wanted some information to be provided in response.
I'm kind of speechless about it because we all know that a very comprehensive landscape plan is going to be as this next part of it. And to provide you something right now would be just taking guesses. And you as a board will have ample opportunity at that time, better opportunity to understand the full landscaping plan, how it ties in with the stormwater system, what kind of plantings we'll have in those swales up front, and the specific types of plants that'll be in those retaining walls in the back. Well, all we could do is say we might use these plants, we might use those plants. We've not done a formal landscaping plan right now. I just think we don't see the benefit.
The board is asking for a formal landscaping plan. It's asking for these are the species.
We don't know
Well,
yet.
if
Right, do you want to say native? I mean, you can provide, like, we're gonna probably do native species, we might be doing, even just with like, potential plantings in certain areas, we're gonna make sure we ensure the buffers. I mean, the things with like, if, are there gonna be potentially trees that are preserved? I mean, you already have done some sort of tree count at some point in time or a tree survey, and your level of this area of disturbance, so you would be able to do a quick calculation as to which trees are potentially gonna remain and which trees are gonna go.
And do you intend to try and stick?
That information's in the document.
Do you intend to basically try to stick with the suggested plants and
Right.
trees from the town of Austining?
if that information is in the document, that should be easy then to revise the
Right.
response, because you could just say the same thing here. That's what's being
Right.
asked. So it's already done. It's taking more time to argue about what needs to be, what's a sufficient response than to just do it. It's something that's already in the document.
Right. In an FEIS, if a comment comes in that information's already been covered in a document, then you will respond to, as part of your response, you'll say, see, page whatever, or see figure whatever of the DEIS. And then you just basically say, it is anticipated this many trees are going to be preserved in this particular location. We are anticipating, providing a detailed landscaping plan with emphasis on native planting, and will respond and adhere to the town of Austin's landscaping standards.
Right. So now I'm on to 4.
So in your response, you said the town code states that properties that otherwise meet the requirements of multifamily district can apply to be rezoned anywhere in the town and not necessarily adjacent to the existing MF zones, which are predominantly within the western side of the unincorporated Austin is noted. We're just saying, you specifically said the town code states, and we're saying, if that's the case, please provide the section of this town code that states this in your response. If that is incorrect and the town code doesn't state that, and you're really saying that New York town state law allows for rezoning petitions,
Yeah.
then maybe that's what you're referring to.
Okay. Variances will provide We're on to 6. And, you know, there's an extensive answer there. 1, 2.
So there's a number of comments. This comes from the Town Environmental Advisory Council. They had comments on they had concerns about some of the regrading, the clear cutting of the slopes, increased potential runoff, construction of the sizable retaining wall. And so we were saying that the response that you provided was incomplete, and that at minimum, you should refer to the mitigation measures, plans, maps, and images and detailed responses for each of the items that were raised, especially if they're already part of the DEIS. It's just simple as, because the responses that you provided, we believe that the DEIS actually has more detail, and that's where those references should be incorporated. So that when the EAC does look to see how you respond to the questions, it's a comprehensive response.
Okay, so you feel we should make more references back to the draft? SEIS.
I don't think our town planner feels anything. I think she's giving you very helpful instructions that you might want to note so that we can move this process along. I feel like it would be productive if you took notes as we went through this, unless you rewatched the hearing. You
We're
were
in fall, the 3 of us are going to move this.
Excellent.
That's what we're going to do.
And I think your professionals could tell you that the process we're going through is pretty standard, and we're not being unreasonable as a board. That this is what the secret process requires. If they feel that we're being out of line, they should state such in a letter to us, and we can discuss it with them. But otherwise, I think this process is going as it goes for other boards I've been on, both as a professional and as a member. I'm sure you've been doing a lot longer than I've been in the field. That doesn't mean you get to cut corners.
I'm not
And
saying,
it doesn't
why are you
mean,
suggesting that? Well, that's why I'm here tonight, to finish this.
it just feels that sometimes when we explain as a board what we'd like to see, your response isn't, can you clarify how I can do it? And rather you ask why we're asking for that. And I don't feel that is appropriate.
This is not just me asking it. These are professionals.
You should bring them with you. next month.
JMC who are
I
completely
work with JMC as well.
plugged into this, who are responding to these things as thoroughly as they think fit. Bob Peak writes these documents for many clients, and he answers these things as he thinks he's seeing fit.
Your
Okay.
professionals write the response.
All these-
They did, not the blue ones. I wrote the blue ones. And they were not satisfactory to you, and so that's why I added to this with the hopes that we would get to another level.
So
But
it might
not
be
just me,
helpful
Jason.
to have the.
all of my
your
professionals,
professional, weigh in.
my architects, my civil engineers, all of them.
I read a lot of the responses. I have the document with me. I don't
want to tangle with you, Jason. I want to get this in. Been at this 8.5 years. It's the longest approval I have ever gone through.
Taking a lot of our time too.
Okay, what item are we on now?
We had just gone through 6, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand what we're looking for in 6?
I responded, so
Okay.
if you feel that my responses are inadequate, I'd like to know where.
So I think in terms of your responses, so for example, the comment from IV7 is significantly reduce the number of proposed units in construction on the slope. They're concerned about the eastern and northeast space and flood. The response should not be, just for make sure it's for the record, should not be, yes, the revised site plan dramatically reduced the unit density on this portion. It should say the revised plan as submitted in the FEIS proposes to reduce the unit density of this portion of the project from 32 units to 10 units. So just make sure it's not, you're not responding to my comments. You're actually you're supposed to be responding to the comment in the FEIS. Just make sure that that is what takes place.
Okay, you're done with 7 then?
Yeah, so when you say like, comment response, things, you CC comments, if they succeed, no. You're gonna need to,
I understand. You want it for each one to be repeated. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. The elevators, anybody have any further questions?
nope.
Table we provided to you.
Yeah.
I think it details it.
Mhm.
10. We will have a chart, and I've been trying to pull it up here all night, that will go through how the portables are calculated.
Yeah.
Based on what guidelines.
Okay.
Okay.
Again,
Yes.
it's based on, read the town of Austining, affordable housing.
Right.
That's what it,
I
that's. what it-
understand. It'll
Yeah.
incorporate both. I understand.
So again, I think you're missing the point of the B12, it specifically refers to the town of Austining. So well, you're referring to fire codes and state codes and OSHA, this is about the town of Austining, affordable housing.
And so can we just talk about that for a second, Valerie? So what is it in the town's code in particular that you feel we need to focus on?
Regulations.
I know, but more
It-
specifically,
it-
because they pretty much dovetail with HUD regulations.
They don't, they have certain requirements based on the average median income.
As to the HUD
Yeah,
guidelines.
HUD guidelines, HUD guidelines are but HUD has different programs and they have different guidelines on their program. Town wants to use different guidelines. They do refer to the HUD, calculations in terms of area median income, but
Mhm.
guidelines are different.
The comment
Right.
says respond to the town of Austin code regarding affordable housing. Can you respond to the HUD? That is not responsive on its face, and it's not a document we could accept. So.
Okay.
Fix the document and respond appropriately.
The sidewalk.
Yeah, we know.
What number are we on? 14.
No, 16.
We're on number 16.
We just skip
What happened to 12,
that together.
So 12, 13, 14.
12, 13, 14, okay.
Well, 14 is about HUD and so on.
14, 12.
So we're now responding, we're talking.
So I think we're on number 12,
14.
comment 12, so IB 14, right?
ID 14.
Okay.
There is a cut and fill analysis
Yeah.
in.
Wait, hold on a second, let's just, you cannot respond, the redesign project was done at the behest of the town. Okay, it needs to, this question was specifically from the town board. And they wanted to know how the proposed project well, it did reduce the number of units, layout, and it now spreads out over more property, this needs more fill or whatever, so while the impact, so they wanted to know. It appears that the environmental impact of the property from the different proposal, is there a middle ground? Whether that means fewer, smaller units, preserve more open space between buffer. So I think what the response should be, since the questions were coming up from the town board, whether the new proposal as is, whether that has more impact. And so there just needs to be an overall description as to why this project is, has less impacts, or what impacts you're specifically identifying as less impacts than the other project, and they're looking for a comparison.
So may I just ask a question? So so I wasn't involved in the first one, directly. Did that have any building on that slope by First and Second Avenue?
Yes, it had the roadways coming
Yeah.
through there.
It had units there?
Had the roadways coming into the back end of the project. And
Okay,
it had retaining walls there.
Okay, because
That whole roadway on the east side of the property had a retaining wall the entire way.
but now it's got units there.
Now there's units and some have, walkout areas and backyards and stuff.
Okay, so that's a different impact than what was before, so that should be addressed.
But I do have to say, we did redesign this project back in January, right?
So.
We
Yeah.
redesigned it specifically to address the density on the east side and to spread out the units and to do all those things. So I'm kind of scratching my head as to why.
I'm concerned that there's, and I sent Dan a picture, and Dan, you didn't comment, I don't know if you got my email or not, but there's a stormwater system that comes in and stops right at your property, right there where those units are, where that ravine. And then there's, and there's your property, and then there's a start of the stormwater system again, down by Pershing Avenue, so something's happening in between that space. And now you're putting units there, and so I am concerned about I don't know what that is, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. Dan, did you see what I sent?
I'm familiar with the drainage you're talking about. I mean,
There's an easement there?
I think we looked into it a long time ago, and I don't think a formal easement exists.
But there's something there because.
No,
Yeah,
there is something there. The water has to flow that way.
right, on
No.
their property. It's flowing on their property.
I mean, as part of, the detailed engineering, the flow generated on the site as well as anything passing through will be dealt with.
Right, so I'm concerned that there's gonna be all this that I think is possibly an environmental impact that you're having. They're building retaining walls and units and everything on an area that has.
Donna,
The
that
water,
area is
like
gonna-
all of that water from all of those houses are flowing through that area on the property.
But
There's a stormwater plan in the document. There's a SWIP. As I say, it's
Right.
600 pages.
Now, I'm not talking about the new water that you're generating. I'm talking about what's existing there now.
And whatever's on our property is now going to go into a
It's on-
engineered stormwater system, and there's now runoff from the homes on First and Second Avenues.
I'm talking about the area right behind
I know you are.
Second Avenue.
But
That's what I'm talking about.
when they do
That
the
that low
hydrology,
area,
they have to look at the watersheds don't enter the property lines. They analyze the watershed
And the
of these
system that's
design
already.
points. Yeah, I mean, it's all part of doing the SWIP analysis.
All right, well, I haven't gotten any information on that, so it's hard for me to know. I see that there's, and it ends up going into, I guess, the Sing Sing.
Donna, you have the SWIP.
That's, how many pages is that? I did not read.
There's a summary in the front. You have the SWIP. You have all in the
I just wanna know
EIS.
what's
You
happening
have
in that
these.
particular area, when we
you
start
have-
looking at the town, and I see it on the town map, on the town GIS map, and it shows that there's gotta be something there that's handling the water, and you're proposing to do all of this construction in that area.
The condition today runs down hill towards the homes on.
I'm not talking about the water on your property. I'm talking about the water from the other properties and then
I
they're.
know you are,
well,
I know you
That area.
That is a low point between the homes on First and Second Avenues, as it is our property, correct?
Right.
Agree on that?
I definitely do.
Okay. So there is stormwater that comes off the First and Second Avenue properties. That's not being channeled anywhere today.
No, I'm saying if there's on the town map, it is a system. There is a.
There isn't any functioning system there today, but nevertheless, the new stormwater system looks at water coming from all different areas in
I
channels.
just want the information on the piping that goes through that area, goes from Narragansett Avenue, and it goes, and it stops at your property, and then it starts again down in the back of Pershing. I want to know, I want to see that.
It's all in there. If you want me to send you an email to Carolyn, she can forward it to you,
Perfect.
and it'll tell you exactly the pages you need to look at. Does
Okay,
that sound good?
perfect.
Okay.
For better, maybe you could put in the pages.
So. In terms of Valerie's comment with respect to, with the redesign of the project was done at the behest of the town, but doesn't seem appropriate.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't seem appropriate for this document. But one of the differences is, yes, you've spread, you've spread out the housing and it's going to be fewer units, and it's not going to generate any school children. That's, that would be something you could put in there too.
This is about impervious.
Right, oh, okay, I'm sorry, there's some other point at which,
Right, I mean, it
Right.
does, right, I mean, he can, like, they did raise, like, that was the issue,
Right.
that the items that were being raised by the commenter, which is the town board, were not addressed in the response, instead the response focused on it's for empty nesters and
Right.
will be well designed, well amenitized, and will offer fewer, school children. But I think there just needs to be a response to the comment. That's the
Right.
issue.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is, and
And it cannot say at the behest of the town.
remembering that this is the planning board's document.
But definitely the focus has to be on addressing the concerns that the proposed project will have greater impacts than the prior proposals. Needs to be addressed.
No, I don't think that's a true statement.
The concerns, it's the
The
concern.
concerns that were raised.
Okay. Are we on to 15?
Yes, I did that too.
What happened to?
That's number 13.
Oh,
Excuse
okay. It's number 13.
Done.
Right.
It's 13 is IB 15.
Okay.
Now we're 15,
Yes. We're 13.
Okay.
and we will respond. For giving you the numbers, we'll just embellish this.
Right.
We understand what you're.
So just for,
17.
if I may just bring this point up that you've stated here that you're going to be planting with attractive grasses and ornamental trees. The word ornamental is problematic, so perhaps you could just, because that seems like it's just going to be decorative and not functional, so if you could just not use that word.
I hope you're still on the planning board when we get to that stage, because the first
just talking about
person we're
that.
gonna talk to is you,
Well,
our
no, I-
landscape architects, to make
Yeah.
sure you're happy.
All right, well, but I'm just asking for here, as part of a secret review, we're not talking about ornamental trees. You just leave that.
Okay,
ornamental.
strike ornamental.
Yes, thank you.
We on to 16?
Or IB,
Page, is it
number
number-
14, IB 17.
Page,
number 14?
Page 7.
item 16,
No, what happened to 14?
No,
but we had,
It's number 14.
Number 14, IB 7.
Right. 2017.
Yes.
At minimum, the response should provide details on how the posting. This is cost and volume.
Again, it keeps can't. You need to have some sort of response as to the cut and fill, what you're proposing. I believe the cut and fill analysis I've provided, we've already had many discussions about that fill analysis. Mandy, do you really want to say something?
No, no.
Can we-
Yeah.
I go ahead.
I think you're referring to the contour map, the new contour map based on the new plan, right?
And we have some fair amount of discussion in the, fair amount of discussion on what we expect there.
But I think the board just wants to know, it's hard to practically understand, the cut and fill portions of contour map. We discussed sectional approach one time, so you can
Right.
show the kind, even on a basic section, which you already have. Just discuss that last time.
Right.
Yeah.
We discussed this
We
last time.
right? No, well, we discussed two things. We discussed the section and we discussed the grading plan. Which shows you look at the grading plan, it shows the existing grades. And then it shows the proposed grades.
Right.
So if you take any section of that map, you can understand how much cut we're gonna do. Or fill.
Yeah, correct, but you already did the cut. You already have cuts, sectional cuts on your plans. So I guess what the board just needs to understand is a certain coloration of which one will really fill. On the same graphic, you can just probably provide a coloration on which one.
Well, it's also the public document, the public has to be able to understand the response, even if you might, I might not, and my wife certainly wouldn't, because she's not at all in the field, so.
Yeah,
I think
that's the simplest. I mean, they'll understand
Okay,
that.
that's a little bit of-
And the question specifically asked, if Bill brought onto the site, where it will come from, will be inspected, you just need to respond to.
The document does tell you all that.
The response you provided was the site engineer of the project seeks to balance cut and fill. The applicant's belief is that that is the only possible type of fill that may be brought onto the site would be finished grades, topsoil needed for final landscape. As such, the soil will likely be high quality, nutrient rich soil. That was your response to the
The
question.
document, the EIS gets into the approximate amount of cut.
But you need to then say.
Right.
Look at
Right.
table F.
Right.
Look at
Right.
plan Y in response to that comment.
And then I'll just note right now that you did change the back portion of that
Right.
of the site, so the SDEIS is probably not apples to apples right now, so you might need to just.
Have a new document, right, updating it.
Yeah, so I looked-
rely on what you already did.
I looked through this and I saw where you, in your document, where you had that you're gonna, you're gonna take out 14,000 cubic yards of excess material, but like Valerie's saying, when I looked at that, that wasn't your new plan. All that stuff did not seem to
It's
be,
very similar, but
but it's not the same,
we can,
because it does have
We
the
can-
red
we
for the
can
cut and the
fine-tune
blue
it,
for the
that's-
fill, but it's not the same plan, right?
So not just what's important, it's what's required.
So what are we on to next?
We're on to number 15, to 5, I think, we've repeated this 100 times. It's
Right.
down the road.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Okay.
what are you on?
It's now
15, comment 2.5. It's about the town code, and affordable requirements in the town code.
Here it's on. So, need to repeat
So you can't respond about how.
Okay, 16 to 6.
So the question came in regarding the type of trail. Or what type of, will there be sidewalk along the emergency access way? Will there be sidewalks along the internal road? You just need to respond to that.
And do you feel this response is not adequate? Yes, no?
Well, it doesn't, I guess the comment was is they wanted to know if there was gonna be sidewalks along the emergency access way. And sidewalks along. the-
Not right now, and that's what it says, so the
Okay.
weight bearing pervious surfaces.
Okay.
But we're trying to minimize the amount of hard surfaces for good reason.
So I guess probably to make it clear would be no, there's not gonna be a specific trail, but there will be weight bearing pervious surfaces. Does that make sense to everybody? Just to make it clear.
And there are visuals of those trails in several locations in the document.
Right, and I think that's what's confusing, because there's some visual images of trails, but then that's what we're asking whether, like, what are those trails, right? So just, there needs to be an understanding of, we're proposing this for trails, and this is the, basically what we are anticipating your trails to be. And if you want to say they're gonna be pervious surfaces, that's fine, the pervious surfaces, and then their location. Because there's a little confusion of what is shown sometimes and what's not shown in others.
All of the, okay, we'll just move on. I'm on to 17 refers to the last comment.
Right.
Right.
The site.
18,
Well, because you specifically say, the DEIS says that the proposed project will provide an interconnection with the publicly accessible Veterans Memorial Park. So we were just trying to get confirmation as to what that means.
and it's these weight bearing surfaces. And it's the
Okay.
you've seen the pictures, right?
So the answer should be, no, there will not be signage, there will be
Weight bearing.
bearing surfaces.
Pervious surfaces. That's all.
Are they located on the site plan?
Yes,
There-
Yeah.
So we can reference them. Sure.
and we do.
But not in that response. to that
Context model visual analysis, see appendix C of December 22 SFEIS.
But that's not in the document.
Right, so if you look at the site plan, the site plan has retaining walls and has roadways, it doesn't have pathways.
It does. Does.
Can you, where would it be?
No, it's there, but let's go on.
All right.
All right, 17. We already answered it. 18, blasting.
So you did mention that there is geotechnical work that you've done before. We're asking you to just provide a summary of the geotechnical work, right? I think we had this conversation last time. You're gonna provide a summary of the geotechnical work. You're gonna give a general description of where you think there potentially could be blasting.
We can give you guesstimates. The issue is, let's okay, we'll give you guesstimates.
Mhm.
All right, 19.
I think we went through this one.
Description.
We don't know what's in it. So we're gonna provide with the board.
We're gonna do a section, two sections. We're gonna do a east west and a longitudinal section. So 20 goes back to 5.
So Right, so again, we're just asking for a narrative description of the lines and heights of everything.
Repeat it there.
Yeah.
And the blasting once again.
So are we on to 23 now?
Any other questions on that one? I was doing,
On what one?
well, 21 and 22, 21 we just did, 22 blasting. I think we covered that.
So around 23,
Up to you.
well, I think, I think, what don't you, understand?
We responded on 18 and 19, so I think we're good. We know we're, I think we're good on it, so let's go on to 23.
23, there was a question on stormwater infiltration basin and whether it'll be planted and maintained and whether it's gonna be mowed lawn or environmentally beneficial prairie area mowed yearly. We're looking,
You know, and in the SWIP, it gets into maintenance of those basins.
That's not a sufficient response.
No, but references to specific pages or quotes from the SWIFT might be better.
That would be good. So is this the part where it says, because I copied this from specifications for final stabilization of graded areas, which is what knows.
Sorry, Donald.
Page 31 of the SWIP, I did look at that. So you're listing these grasses as what's going to be planted.
Planted, but it also gets into the maintenance of those basins.
This is, your typical Asian lawn grass that's being planted. I mean, it's just so disturbing to me to be at this point in our, where we are landed right now with climate change and all, to just put another, and that would be a huge lawn with these Asian grasses. Like, it's like, I think that it could be
I
better.
would love to know what you would prefer.
I think I said it. I would like to have it like it be like a prairie.
I think that was Donna's question, the description.
Yeah.
Where you blended me, right? Well, this promote an environmentally beneficial prairie area mowed yearly.
Yeah, I mean, it could be such a
Will
benefit.
plants be native plants or lawn grass?
Because this is, Kentucky bluegrass is a misnomer. It's an Asian grass. I mean, all these.
Doesn't this tie back to the formal site plan?
Yeah.
Doesn't it tie back to that, the formal landscape plan?
No, because you're asking us, we're trying to judge this based on the environmental impact and to have another, this would be a huge lawn. And I know you say that it's a lawn now, but we are now in 2023 and I think we can do better. And it would be, in my belief, it would be a benefit to your project to have something that was so sustainable rather than this, yet again, another like high footprint, polluting, no benefit lawn. So,
Well, I think in other parts, we say we're going to get into also planting river birches and trees like that.
that doesn't address the mowing.
Excuse me?
That doesn't address, that's not gonna balance off the mowing of this thing. So that's what I just want the information. If that's your answer, that you're gonna put this
But don't,
on, then that's your answer.
well,
And that's, And I'm not gonna be happy with
Step of
that.
this,
You can't keep saying we're gonna do a landscape plan in the next step. That's not how secret works. You have to analyze, you have to respond to the. You have to have enough analysis here, and we can't move forward to the next.
the
step if
secret
we don't-
works. That's secret.
I know, but this is not how secret works.
It's probably my 20th seeker.
And when you
Well,
resubmit your SFDIS, just point the dates in this raise, it has to be in a red line form. So it'd be easy, so we can understand what changes were made and we're not reviewing the whole entire.
This is a seeker like no other that I've experienced.
Lovely, let's continue.
Yeah.
That's now.
24.
There are questions about the sequencing of the project. I think we had this discussion last time that you were gonna provide information on the sequencing. of it.
Mhm.
So I don't think the new response that you have is the appendix E entitled construction management plan. I think we've asked if you provide a narrative. I don't believe, and I have to double check, that the appendix E had a lot of details on the construction management plan. And I think there was numerous concerns, not only because this one deals with the 5 acres of the particular comment that this one is associated with deals with the 5 acre minimum. That you're going to be asking for waivers, but I think there was also concerns about where the construction staging was going to be and the stormwater, and, you know, you're going to have to keep the stormwater and utilities in and how all that stuff is going to work on the site and how the construction is going to be based.
And
And
that is usually, and don't say that this should be in here. That's not true. Usually, when a construction documents are prepared, there are several sheets that go into great detail on construction staging. All of them in great detail.
But last time, if I recall, you were giving us a summary of how you were planning to do the staging. And I think the board said that's what needs to be in.
And I mean, I don't want to get into the debate. Those documents were submitted to you. Your question doesn't even refer to those documents. We had to point you to those documents in my answers. We will expand on it, but the documents do tell how we intend to, at a very conceptual level, get into that. Okay.
If they're adequate enough, then just.
Well, you should know if you're
They
gonna
may have
give up these comments.
maybe a narrative and slip about it too, because that probably was the 5 acre issue came up.
Swell maintenance, we can expand on it. There is in the SWIP again, what is proposed. Donna, I hear you loud and clear. We can expand on it. You're concerned about grasses. Birds.
So I definitely am gonna take up your comment here, and I will talk to town board about making this a law, if this should be a law. And I just feel it's really a shame that it's not gonna be addressed.
Well, how, tell me how you think we should address
So
it.
New York City has a law about it, and the state, it's got a law it's in committee right now about this, so it is an actual concern.
But how
and
would
you're
that-
building
how do you
something
see
on top
it
of-
playing out here? I'm just curious. I don't know.
That you would use materials that would take this, and they make materials, they make window materials that would, so either you put small pane windows up on those large glasses, or you don't use the big large glass. That's 2 of your options. Or you use a glass material that's made to protect from birds flying in and.
And what does that do? I don't know, so I'm curious. What does that do?
Manny, do you have information on this? Because New York City definitely has a law about it now.
No, not present.
So just don't have the large windows now. or say that you're gonna do that, and then that'll be another thing that I'm not happy about, so, I'm already not happy about many things, so. But it would be great if you could address that.
Well, it's
I'm not making something up here, this is stuff
The
that is.
response can be nothing will be done, but that's at least a response to the
Right.
question or.
Well, I want to be sensitive to Donna's concern. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, these units and the market requires certain amount of light and to come into the units. And to create dark units is something that's not going to be marketable.
You have like a whole, like, wall of windows.
There are some units in a row, and I do say that. There are some units on the rows of townhouses that there are some that have large expanses. That's true. There are many other units that don't. And so
So it's the ones.
it is an architectural thing that aspect that people look for, the bright units. Go into Manhattan, all of the new buildings have floor to ceiling windows, all of them.
And they're by law now gonna have to use materials that have like striping in the glass or something that's going to be.
That's interesting, maybe. I
Reflective,
don't know.
because there's
Look
a
into
law
it,
in New York City.
we'll look into it.
Well, you said that there's a state law being proposed at
Yeah.
this point, so
We'll definitely look into it. I don't know what it
As
is.
we know,
but I'll
all
look
the-
into
that knows
it.
the
I think it's
mechanism.
interesting, actually.
Mm.
All right,
Well, we could get rid of one thing.
landscape plan. Comments. I think we already looked at it. Anne should be here for.
Okay.
We'll wait till he comes back. Why don't we go on to turn when he comes back?
Okay. What are we doing?
we went to 29. We're waiting for Dan to come back. to talk
I
about
think we already
28.
talked about the construction people. too.
Yeah, we did.
All right, so we're going to do that. So we get into narrative on how we see construction going on. And tell me what you would traditionally like,
What are we on?
if anything.
29.
No, we're on 30. We did something.
We did
That's
fine.
30. So,
Right, so you had, so in your response to 12.4, so the question came in about the construction phasing.
Hmm.
And it said, provide an average truck trips per day for each phase of construction.
Hmm.
And you provided only the average truck trips per day for the excavation phase. And you're saying, please provide it for all your phases of construction.
Okay.
sheet bottom.
So, and I thought the answer was the appropriate one. The initial, the most truck trips happened at the beginning of the construction. And we don't know if we're gonna do, we're probably just gonna do two phases here. So at the beginning of phase one, and then we'll sequence to phase two. And those initial stages involve the excavation, the installation of the foundations, and then the framing and enclosure of the building. Once that's done, those things are done, then everything moves to the interior. Sheetrocking, all the MEPs are in, they're inside. The material deliveries drop off significantly. We're talking about ductwork, piping. So the deliveries will drop off dramatically once the buildings are closed. So the greatest need for truck trips is the initial excavation and taking off materials and also concrete mixing trucks coming in to pour the foundations. And then the trucks bringing in, wood for framing. Those are the big initial. And once that is done again, they're enclosed, and everything else inside it drops off dramatically. You can drop off a couple of pallets of sheetrock, a couple times a week.
Right, so can you,
So
right,
I thought I gave you.
no, this is just the. The question was from the public, was provide truck trips, average truck trips per day for each phase of construction. That's all you.
Okay, the document does talk about the excavation and the trucking, so we will include that response here again.
No, but it's each phase of construction.
We'll do that.
You wanted to go back to.
Yeah, Dan, so Dan, on number, when you-
It's the rest of the comments on the. For I9.
Yeah, I mean, it's their standard comment on the secret review for the board.
Right,
That's
so then what he needs to, and we recommended that they. Work, speak with you and address it.
Yeah, we'll have to work with the village too, because they also immediately into the village's collection system.
So then. We can work with Dan and provide a response.
So I said here.
In consultation with those involved, just to provide what you're proposing to do.
Now we're on 31.
Yeah, we're on 30 minutes.
So. Question is, where will the construction station be located? Will the field along Croton Dam Road be used for parking for construction vehicles? And you have the construction station area will likely utilize the field along Croton Dam Road for the parking of construction vehicles.
And then the construction management plan and the SDIS
Right, so-
literally shows most of that.
Right, so we are just raising that this area is also planned to be regraded and redesigned for post-storm management areas. So like, how do those two correspond?
So as the project builds out, parking will move on the site. As the front swales are sculpted, parking will move. And so it'll differ as the project builds out.
But there's the explanation that needs to.
And where materials are stored will differ during the different phases.
Right, so we can just.
Specify.
You want me to say that?
Yes, yeah, and then also just not, generally it will differ, but where, right? Because that's also been a comment that the planning board has raised a couple times on this. Which is part of the reason why they're just trying to figure out where.
The best answer for this, if I were in your shoes, the best answer would be when we get down to construction documents and landscape plans, where there's a full detailed plan of how the site is going to be built out. If all that detail is there, wouldn't that be more useful to you than me just summarizing right now?
Ultimately, this board chooses to move forward on a project. Once you're done the FEIS phase, you issue a finding statement. And in the finding statement, you identify mitigation measures and thresholds. So if things aren't defined and changes happen to the site plan that exceed some of the thresholds that were initially looked at or don't meet the mitigation measures, then you have to go back and do a supplemental for the EIS. And I don't think that's what you want to do.
onto 32.
So may I just say that in here, when you're addressing the heat, you're talking about window coatings?
Coatings,
So
also.
It seems like this is somewhere like that you could possibly look into if you could also address the bird issue with the coating.
Sure, good idea.
That might be where you can resolve that.
And how you can with comment response, that's not sufficient. Can't just say this is an interesting question that you're gonna, address it.
Anyway, this is not what would literally go in the document. This is responding to you all for purposes of having a conversation where we will then formally respond in a revised document. Okay. Anything more on 33?
Are we on 33 now?
I think, unless you have
Yeah,
done anything additional on 32.
Oh,
Again, the comment came in
Which one are you on?
33 that, can the proposed project incorporate heat pumps, permeable pavement, native plant and reduction value? So just answer that. Can it incorporate it?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
You could also say at this point, it is not intended that these would be incorporated. However, if later in the design and planning engineering process, it is deemed that they can be incorporated, the applicant will consider doing so.
We'll do
I mean, but haven't you already talked about from, permeable, placement and our native plants, I mean, you're already proposed, so the answer is yes.
this. Yeah,
So instead of saying you're not proposing it, say we weren't proposing permanent pavers. We're doing our own discussion about that.
we can definitely say that. Say that. To the extent that we can stay away from hard surfaces, we will do it.
That's what your answer.
So regarding 33, I mean, would it be too early at this point to specify what kind of heating system you're going to be using?
Until these units are fully designed, I'm reluctant to do that right now, to say we're gonna use these, but we can say the typical ones we might use, like a magic pack system or a, central system. Then what we use in one of the staggers versus the regular townhouse may differ.
It's more of it's going to be properly raised.
No, not, no.
So that's probably.
I understand the concern, but we want to embrace as many technologies as we can. I'm a big believer in that.
That's what-
All these units are going to be wired for electric cars. In 5 years. What percentage? New
Well,
cars?
if you are proposing to do that, then put that in there.
Right,
Yeah.
and put that in there.
Well,
If you're looking at certain types of insulation, well, those types of things. Trying to make this greener. Anyway, okay, 34.
So that the response you put in the FEIS is not adequate, and the response you just provided is not adequate. The question was specifically how the project is consistent with the goals of the climate leadership and community protection. So just go to the act.
A response might be, the goals in that act include but are not limited to these 5. The project adheres to or responds to these goals by doing A, B, C, D, E. That's one approach. That's an approach I would find.
Mhm.
I think that was one of your comments too, Jason, on this particular act was a concern.
What was it? I've dealt with it with other projects. I've had to explain how projects are consistent with it. Makes sense.
Okay. 35,
It's similar to the other ones.
it's similar to some of the other,
We're just gonna rotate it so that it faces the entrance road. I know there's concern that there might be too much glass. It would be some like that.
Yeah, so just to clarify the impacts on wildlife, and you say they do not expect significant wildlife to be present in this location. So, I include birds in the wildlife. So,
I'll have to look into those types of glass. Not familiar with them.
or reduced amount of glass.
Pardon?
Or reduced amount of glass, because Manny had brought up the point about it being very hot with all that glass.
I do know people are starting to use filament, filament. And whether or not that's something we can as a HOA, a condo association, I don't know. I've never seen it.
Mm.
But maybe there is some way of adding filaments that there's, can't get at the glass.
I'm not familiar with it either.
What's that?
I'm not familiar with it either.
Exactly.
Just for purposes of the record, I'm just gonna read a part of the Kimley Horn memo, just to make sure we're all on the same page. The comment that the traffic expert made was that the applicant was asked to provide information on school bus stop locations in the study area, as well as the morning and afternoon pickup and drop off times at each of those locations, and evaluate potential impacts and mitigation of the project construction activity will coincide with school bus activity. That expert found the SFBIS response as following. The applicant indicates that the Ossining Union Preschool District has been contacted to obtain the school bus information, but the response has not yet been received. The applicant states that no significant impacts are anticipated, that New York State vehicle and traffic laws, vehicles, including instructor vehicles, must stop when school buses are picking up or discharging passengers. Emily Horn's comment in part was, the applicant has not provided the required information on school bus stop locations in the study area. This is information the school district could provide. This is information the applicant could gather through field observation. Moving down, based on the data provided to date, it appears there would be additional construction activity past the school bus stop locations at drop off and pickup times. Without knowing the times, nature, levels, and location of that activity, comparing them to projected construction activity, it is difficult to affirm that the project will not have a significant adverse impact on this activity, or that any impact will be mitigated to the greatest extent practical. It is recommended the applicant document school bus activity on Croton Dam Road or outline a plan that will minimize impacts. And all I will add to that is that I would like to see that information provided in response to this memo.
Thank you.
Okay. We need, yes, motion with respect to the minutes.
I'll make a motion to adopt the meeting minutes for the March 15, 2023 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I think.
Jason?
I vote yes.
Manny,
I will do it.
Don? Yes. You weren't there.
No.
I vote yes as well. So the minutes are adopted. Our next two meetings are May 17th and June 21st, 2023. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn this evening's planning board meeting for the town of Austin.
May I have a second?
Second.
Jim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Donna, how do you? And
Yes. Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.